So welcome everyone. So we've got quite a few joined in here. We keep watching as everybody gets in, but most of you are in, which is good. It's been going up here rapidly the last few minutes. So, well, thank you for joining us today. We have a special guest. As you can see, we have our special guest with us, Doug Gober from the Foresight company has joined us today. And it looks like, so today's topic, right, is don't you dare say I'm sorry. And this was through a conversation when Doug and Mandy and I kind of got talking and we just moved through the process. We came up with some great ideas and we knew exactly where we had to go. So you saw we changed our plan. We had another webinar planned and we will come back to it because it was a cool title. But we will come back to that probably November, I think at this point, maybe December. So, all right. So with that, again, I'm Brent Thomas with Dead Ringers. Those of you who are starting to get to know me, been here a few months now. So I appreciate everything. See a lot of familiar names over here on the list. But I think what we're going to do today is just go ahead and just kind of get into the conversation. What we want to do is just have a fun conversation. We're not really scripted, which could be good and bad for all of you. But we also want you to join in with chat. Ask questions when you want. Doug's probably going to ask some questions. We might ask a couple myself and see what we're doing here. And that way we can just have a good time. And the point here is let's just have an open live discussion of some of the things we can do. And I know some of the topics we talked about is how can we make funeral service better? You know, Doug's always talking about that one because that he has been a crusader for it forever. How can we differentiate from our competitors? How can we serve families above and beyond, I'm sorry for your loss? And we're going to bring in some data because, well, those of you that know either one of us, we both like data. So anyway, and there will always be some practical tips because they're always coming out everywhere. And when I stall for one, I know we got Nikki here. So Nikki will be able to put in chat some really perfect things to say at times. So anyway, we want to keep it a little fun and have a good time. So what we're going to do though now is let's kind of just jump in and let's look at how do we make funeral service better? I mean, well, so Doug, last time we talked, you had
we'll need Nikki to be online all the time to correct my grammar. So that will be a good way for us to begin. I appreciate the opportunity, Brett, of being with you this afternoon and the opportunity to share with the group of folks who are taking time away from their businesses in a busy afternoon. But I really appreciate the opportunity just to share a few things as we go. For years, I've been talking about different things about how to make this business better, but I would say that I would like to start this maybe on a little bit of a different track, and that is that my personal opinion is, and I think there's enough support for this to make sense, and that would be that there's never been a better time to be in funeral service than right now. And there's probably people on this call and certainly people within earshot of where you're sitting, if they're not on this call, that don't believe that. And that whole thing's going to hell in a handbasket, and that's just not the case. So there are things that are going on that it's important for you to know, but there are also things that could go on that are important for you to at least think about. And just between April the 15th or so, and right now, I've done 14 state or national convention programs. And one of the things that seems to be coming up on a regular basis is, what do we do now? We've got this going on, we've got that going on, but our challenges are really quite simple. And that is, how do we interact with the consumer, and how does the consumer know what their choices are as it comes to death care? And Brent, you've even experienced some of that in the last 24 hours that we're going to at least bring. And the challenges are huge, but not that can't be overcome with some simple, easy to implement changes. And how to, one of the things I would like to ask the group, if it's okay for me to just jump into this right now, Brent.
Let's go.
Let me ask the group, and I'm going to ask you to answer this in the chat, and we're going to come back to it because I don't want to just ask the question and then immediately start ripping off some answers. What I'd like for you to answer, as you can think about this, and as Brent and I go to a couple of different directions, where does the consumer get educated about funeral service. Where does that occur? As you examine how people know what they know about our business, where does that information come from? What is the source of what they know? And let's come back to that later. Brent,
I love it.
and we'll come back to that in a few minutes. I'm going to turn this back over to you for a moment to kind of lend us to that experience maybe that you had in the last 24 hours.
Yeah. So yes, and I will withhold names that I can. Just this is I get the cold chills, guys. Because so my daughter, my 30-year-old daughter, one of her very good friends, came down with cancer in 2020. Where I'm gonna go with this is they are a tight knit group. There's like at least 30 that are super tight, if not 50. Well, their friend Jake died last night at 7:00, 7:02 to be exact. 50 of them were in the room with him. This is what I mean by how tight this group is. He's been over here many times. And this is a group that loves like music festivals, and they all go together on trips to do these things, right? So where my story is, I've stayed behind the scenes because my daughter, as we all know, when someone asks questions, they ask us things, but the family hasn't, as well as his key best friends that kind of have his will and power of attorney and other things, right? That they do get to make the arrangements. But they're all working together now, which is great. So my daughter just started asking me a lot of things because all the friends know, right? As we know, they run to me, but the family hasn't. So I say that.
We're always the designated funeral guy in our families, regardless.
Right.
We're the extended funeral people, and
Yep.
My mom and dad had extended large families, and so you're coming at this sometimes from several generations away.
And we're trying not to get too far in to where we create a problem, right? So we're trying to stay back and you want to hear things, but anyway, I want to read you my daughter's been going back and forth. So I just kind of checked in and asked her, hey, have you heard anything specific? And even this morning, just wanted to hear so that I could know, because she's asked me so many questions, and now I can't find the text reply back, but she asked the main friend that has everything legal, and he goes, I'm not sure. There's a few of them, so I kind of read through them, but I'm not sure they're even going to have a proper funeral. Not sure if they'll use a funeral home. He was really adamant about doing a celebration of life party. It kills me to think about it, right? Because
what's the difference?
What did they just say? I mean, and what is a proper funeral? I know, because he was so adamant. He had talked over time about a party, right? Which is an event, which is a celebration of life. So I had to kind of help her with some definitions, but I also have to tell you, she called me yesterday and said, hey, what are these parting stones? Do you know anybody from there? Because we might need 100 of them. So anyway, Doug, your thoughts? I'm just baffled. I'm kind of speechless on it. And
well, I think one of the biggest challenges that always occurs when you start talking about all these terminologies and you say the word funeral, it immediately conjures up, 2 songs in a sermon. And that for the most part, there are certainly people who desire that. But for the most part, in this world, that's not the case for a lot of reasons. Mobile society, the fact that intermarriage, where you've got Jewish people marrying Catholic people and dogs and cats living together. And all, it's all this stuff. Because society gives us this opportunity to go wherever we want to go in just about anything else we do. And that includes religion. I mean, the dominant religion in the United States today, if I were to ask you what is the dominant, if you were to ask people what is their religious preference, almost 50% of them, or slightly more than that now, would say none. But the ones who do respond with some choice, it's all over the board. But the real interesting thing is the only church that's really growing in the United States are the mega churches, who are attracting Jewish people, Episcopalians, Baptists, and every other name you could mention are all going to the mega churches.
Yeah, and they don't have pews.
Of course they don't have pews.
They changed everything. Yeah.
No, but they got a rock and roll band.
That they
blow
do.
your head off on Sunday morning or whatever it is they may want.
Yeah.
But the fact is, people get that at their own choice everywhere they go. So why wouldn't they get it from us? And so the problem is how do you define religion? How do you define any, education? How do you define all these things? And anytime there's upheaval in sort of the standard offer, and there's been upheaval in our standard offer now for 30 or 40 years, but anytime there's upheaval, there's always winners and losers, whether it's education, politics, whatever it might be that is across the board internationally, there's always winners and losers on these things. And some of it could be innovation, some of it can be just a unique way of doing something, or just a unique way of approaching this, because the world is moving faster, it's more internet driven, all these things. And so information is out there. I mean, I've got more information right here than, most people had on the, to take a man to the moon. So the challenges for us are interesting, and here, related to this, to your question, Brent, that was raised by your daughter and her situation. Is what is a funeral?
Yeah.
Define that for me, would you? And one of the reasons that our regulatory stuff is all over the board, state by state, I could name some regulations there. There's a piece of the Florida regulation that says you can't be a licensed funeral director unless you're a licensed funeral director.
Okay.
That's in the Florida law.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff out there in regulations, and part of the problem is that we can't define it. And if you can't define it, you can't regulate it. And so you try to regulate something that's undefinable. Is a funeral a family reunion? Well, of course it may be. Is it a family reunion with tissue boxes? Is it a family reunion with a deceased presence there?
Yeah.
How do you define that?
Good point.
And any of those qualifies as what we might now think of as a funeral. So, the definition of this becomes difficult. And so when it's difficult to define it, it's impossible to regulate it properly. Because if you can't define it, you can't regulate it. That's the reason the regulations are all over the board, because you're having trouble to define what it really is. So it's, and yet, like, they want to wedding for me.
Yeah, and they want to regulate.
We've got a deceased that we've got to do something with, and the end result with a wedding is we've got these two people and they're going to end up married. But what they do in the interim can be all over the place. Well, and your job and the challenge, I think, for you today, Brent, with your daughter, as well as for us every day with an arranging family, is to define what it means to them.
Exactly. And unfortunately, they're doing that research on their own, or they've been educated. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, how they get educated, right? And let's go there. I mean,
let's go there now. Let's go there now, because I think
you're right.
This is one of the things, and I think the very interesting thing is, how did the people you were talking to, Brent, in the last 24 hours that you've gotten the text from, other than just your daughter, how did they even know the term celebration of life?
Correct.
How did they even know where that came from? By the way, just for the record, I hate it. Mm-hmm. I hate it. The celebration of life is wonderful, but I can tell you, this was a young person that we're talking about in your particular situation, yep. Brent. And yep. There are people who will attend this thing that ain't celebrating nothing. Our friend is gone, and we'd be better off if he wasn't gone.
You're right.
And if my 27-year-old is just killed in a car wreck, and I'm the arranging family, let me assure you, at that moment in time, I'm not celebrating much.
Point. Again, another way of us changing words to make things better.
The word celebration just it cringes me every time I hear it. That doesn't mean we can't have the appropriate event. This is all about verbiage and words and what we do with it, how we, this is a national phenomenon. I mean, we create words nationally that get used all the time, But in our case, this word celebration crept in because it points out the fact that we're trying to be uniquely different, and that's a good thing.
That's a good point. Very good point.
Yeah. But the bad thing about it is I may not be celebrating. I believe the word is remembrance, because I can have a remembrance service for my 92-year-old grandmother who we were expecting to pass away for 10 years, or I can have a remembrance service for that 18-year-old that was just killed in a car wreck, and I don't have to worry about the term celebration getting in the way.
I love
That's
it.
just one of many terms we're talking about today, and hopefully we'll get to a few others.
Doug, that could be a remembrance party. I mean, they set a party, a remembrance party to remember Jake. I mean, hello, have the DJ that they want. I can already see it, but that is the
point. The whole point of us getting together is to remember Jake.
That's exactly
and
right.
Remember who he was and what he meant to us.
Yep.
Or whatever family is that we're serving today.
Yep.
But beyond that, let's take this a step further and let's go to everybody's responses that we see here. A few of them that I can see.
Yeah, I saw.
And that is, where does funeral service education occur? Where again, this is where does the consumer gather the information they know to the point that they have a need. So we either have a sudden loss or an expected loss, but regardless, to that point, whenever it occurs, where does education occur?
It looks like we got a good variety here. We've got an answer here, and we did make sure we did this on chat so everybody can see them.
Good.
Right. So some are saying that they're educated by past experience or what someone told them, which I think we're Jake's situation. We're seeing some of that. Again, past experiences, movies, internet, and searches. So that's that movies is a good one too.
Online for sure. Yeah. It's something that always comes up today.
Yep. And then preferred to come from the funeral home professional, then friends, but in some cases, YouTube. And word of mouth, websites, and reviews. And we've got, here we go. Look, now we're getting some more. I love it, everybody. We got a good active group.
Oh God, there's Amy. She knows as much about this as I do.
Yeah, well, grab Bill first here, but that they learned from their own family traditions, possibly from their church, past funerals they attended. And
there you go.
Greatly from the media. Yep.
Way to go, Bill.
Yeah.
Now you're on target. There we go.
And I think and we had a couple heading that way. Yeah. Local cemeteries. Okay.
So Amy responded with,
that's a good point.
The cemetery is doing a good job.
Yeah.
Because they're the most under siege. Cemetery business is the most under siege in this entire upheaval we're experiencing. But there's always going to be winners and losers, and there are cemeteries out there that are succeeding in a big way doing this right.
Absolutely. Because they don't feel as regulated about how they price it, the price list they have to create, all those pieces. There's definitely something to that.
Let's explore. I'm going to come back to Bill Summers in a minute, but let's explore, those options of where people learn about funeral service. One of those certainly is online. There is, however, if I've had a loss at today, I have a loss. I'm going online almost every single time. But am I going online to get educated about what I'm going to do? Probably not. I'm going online to get the funeral home phone number that I already have previously chosen. I know where I'm going to call, but I'm still going to that website. But I'm going there for either the funeral home number, or if I'm attending something that funeral home is now, quote, sponsoring or conducting, I'm going there to get directions. Those are the main two reasons that people go to funeral home websites. And so I'm not likely to get educated online at the moment of need. And that's the critical piece of this. What about the arrangement conference? I know that some of you on this call are incredible communicators. And you have this unique ability to greet a group of strangers who've just had a loss in their lives, whether it be urgent or expected, doesn't really matter. But they've had a loss and they're strangers to you, and you have that unique communication skill that allows you to take their anxiety from here and cause it to go back down. Because you had that. I'm a believer in gifts. I believe it's a gift. I believe that many funeral professionals, or some funeral professionals, really have that gift, and you're really, really good through your verbal skill of listening carefully, and then using your response to help create lowered anxiety. As anxiety goes down, cooperation goes up. People learn a little more from you in that arrangement conference. It is possible. However, as you all know, some of you are amazing at this, and some of you suck at it. And I don't know who I'm getting. On any given day, I'm not sure whether I'm getting the great communicator or the one who's not so good on your staff. And we have relegated the success and failure of this entire transactions to someone's verbal skills. And I would tell you that if I'm trying to teach people about what's available to them in funeral service at the time of need, it's too late. Because again, if I'm sitting in your arrangement conference, there's so many other things that are clouding my mind right now that I can't be educated right now. You can lay out my options, which is important. Every family, every option, every time. But the fact is my education is what I brought in the door with me.
Yes.
You can also say that, so the arrangement conference is a possibility, but not a really good one. You can also think about family events, where people have attended big, important funerals, or they've seen them on TV, the Queen Elizabeth's funeral, and all these big funerals that are out there, or maybe community events that might take place in a cemetery. Cemeteries are great at doing I actually attended I watched an old black and white movie off of the side of the mausoleum at it's on Sunset Boulevard in California. They do that on a regular basis, getting people into their business. But do people really gather information about what they're going to do if it was their turn to be in the barrel? I'm going to come back to what Bill said, because that is really, there's two ways that I believe that people learn or can learn when they're not clouded by grief. Number one is pre-need. Prearranged services can't be understated, the importance of them in letting people know when they're not in the grieving mode. And they may even be doing this, of course, for themselves and think that they're removing grief from their family. And you should be the one that tells them that does not happen. You've taken care of the business part of this, but you can't take care of the grieving part of this. But the fact is prearrangement does give us an opportunity to share more of the options, unrushed, without the pressure of time, to have this done over the next day or two.
Yeah.
But I would tell you that I'm gonna go back to Bill Summers' answer that says possibly from past funerals attended. And that, to me, is the biggest opportunity in funeral service today, and has been for a long time. And if any of you have been to any of my functions along that dusty trail, you would know that I've been talking about this for 25 years. And that is breaking down our criteria of who we're serving into host, guest, and the community. The host, many funeral professionals, by the way, think they're the host because they may actually live upstairs. This is their house.
Yeah. Point.
So it would kind of make sense if we think we're the host. But in fact, the arranging family is the host of whatever's going to occur here. Secondarily, the guests are all those people who are going to attend and observe whatever we create. the community, the third part is the overall community. Those are people who have never been in our place ever. It may, the only exposure they may have to us is a drive-by.
Mm-hmm.
They've never been in our place. They've never driven through our cemetery. They have thought that they know what goes on there. They've maybe seen it in a movie. They've seen it on TV. More times than not, it's bad. And that may have formed a lot of their impression. But there is no greater opportunity than when people are walking in your door or driving in the front entrance for them to learn what you want them to know about what you do on funeral service. And whatever occurs there is going to, as an old person, today I can say this now. I'm officially, as of July the 19th, qualified as an elder in this group. And what happens for us is about 15, maybe even 20 years ago, I started attending funerals more than I might otherwise, because the parents of my high school buddies were starting to pass away. And if it was people I was continued to be close with for a long time, I attended those services. And as I attended funeral services, I got a snapshot of what it could be like. And as my parents aged, I may have even been attending that service with one of my high school buddies' parent and thinking to myself, wonder what I would do if it was my turn to be a host today rather than a guest. And in some cases, I knew their parents, and in some cases, I didn't.
Yeah.
And so not only, by the way, do I have any grief on that day? If I knew their parents well, maybe. But if I didn't know their parents well, probably not. This is why they call it paying your respects. I'm there out of my respect for the relationship that I had to my high school buddy. I may or may not have even really known his parents. And so I don't have any grief. I have sympathy. The depth of my sympathy, you measure the depth of my sympathy based on the depth of my relationship to the person I did know. But I may walk up and encounter a dead guy that I've never even met in my life until today, and I don't have any grief. I have sympathy.
So
there's never a better opportunity for you to let me know what's going to happen.
That's what was a big aha moment for me, because I'm not age though. I'm at that point where you start thinking more about it myself. But you said at the same time that day, you said, Brent, when you get like 65 and above, you think about it because you're there so often, that this is the number one group that we're educating. And it popped in my head that the average age of people pre-needing is like 72. It's all fitting. So then it ran me back to the point of, and how many direct cremations are we having without a memorial service where we could at least do something minimal? And my point where I'm gonna go with this one is, why not just give the memorial service? The building is empty from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. I would just, if we can't build it into our service fee, just include it. Let's get people in funeral homes and start educating them. Or let me not say funeral, let's say get them in the buildings, the event centers, whatever they are.
Let them educate themselves. Because they are being educated by what your portfolio of offer is. By getting a free sample. I'm coming in today not even knowing that I'm on a 10 or 15 year buying mission, and I'm going to use the information I gathered today as a non-grieving guest. I'm walking around. I don't have any statistics to support this, by the way, but I'm guessing this that 70% of the people who walk into an event that you are conducting, that 70% of those people probably have no grief and probably don't even know the deceased. They know some member of the family. And so, it is very important to recognize that in its crassest terms, and I can say this in this group, in its crassest terms, your current revenue opportunity comes in the back door with a toe tag, but your future marketing opportunity walks in the front door, living and breathing.
And how many aren't walking in there?
With no grief. If you got 100 people at an event, you got one of those rare occasions where you get 100 folks to show up because the person was important to that many people. And those people are getting a free sample today of what you want them to know about what funeral service is supposed to be.
Well, you know,
secondarily, there's one other point of that.
Okay.
There is also the fact that if you have a 30% market share in your market, if you don't know what your market share is, you need to know. But if you've got a 30% market share, not only are 70% of the people walking in there with no grief, 70% of them, if you've got a 30% market share, don't belong to you. What are you doing on this occasion to cause them to reconsider their current allegiance for no reason other than that's where our family's always gone? What are you doing to cause them to come to you rather than where they have historically gone because of something they saw you do today that was so radical and so unexpected that we have to reconsider where we would go if something happened to my parents today.
And Doug, we had one in the family a few years back that, I mean, literally, even my family was like, I didn't know you could do this. And I'm like, do you not listen to me, folks? But it was a cremation. So the first night, body present, visitation. But when we got there for service the next day, remains in an urn. Cremator remains in an urn, right? And it just floored everybody because they didn't know how that was possible, right? So I'm just taking that as another moment of, now that you say it, my whole family and friends that were there got educated just from something that little.
There was someone at the visitation the night before that you just described, Brent, that looked over at each other and said, I thought this was a cremation.
Well, exactly. Well, now we're going back to our old days, Doug. You and I doing the cremation.
The very next day, right, the very next day they showed up and there's the urn up there in front of the service.
Yeah.
And it also told them, all those guests, it also told them that if I choose cremation, I can do this.
It did.
Jay Jacobson has pointed out something I think here that is so cool, is that there is a gift in being able to ask those open-ended questions that provides the family reasons to have service that actually reflect the needs of the family and maybe provide a method of remembrance that meets the needs of the community and everyone who attends. And I thank you for that, Jay, and you're right. The challenge is for us to understand. There should be, I'm going to get off the host and guest here real quick, but there should be a flat screen on every blank wall in your funeral home that communicates to me what your capabilities brochure is. There ought to be a visual representation of every cool thing you've ever done on a funeral rolling on the wall right outside the women's bathroom. Every time.
So making that point though, so I'm going to bring it back, and I've got one of Nikki's here to come back to, but
okay.
So dead ringers, when we're doing the calls, right, and we're pulling data, you know, that is one of the most challenging things for folks to do is to talk about themselves in a positive. We all have those standards of excellence, right? That's something you do at your location that no one else does, or things that, hey, we always do this, this, and this. It's what we stand for. Or maybe it's as simple as, well, your mother never leaves our care. We have a crematory on site where your competitors don't. But Doug, it is one of the most challenging things to get people put in the positives, especially on a phone call, as to why why we're better or why you should come here. It's just interesting to make that.
Yeah, and one of the ways you can do that is simply, and I'll jump into a sort of a different angle here with you, Brent, because we've discussed it. You and I have talked about it. It goes even back to, how did you answer the phone? How did you answer the phone on the first call when the first call was made? And how do you know that every time you answer the phone, it's not a first call? So if I answer the phone and I say the words cheerfully, because most people who answer the phone in funeral homes are really, really nice people. They really are. Look, whoever answers the phone, if it's our administrative person who's that sweet lady that's been answering the phone at the funeral home for 30 years. And she has that amazing sweet tone, and she's just perfect for that job. And she asked the words, may I help you? She's going to do that in a very pleasant, sort of uplifting voice, because that's likely who she is. But the challenge with that is, if this is a death call, the person on the other end may not need such a uplifting, happy sounding voice. So my suggestion is very simple. As it comes to answering the phone, Smith Funeral Home, this is Doug, and say nothing else. And then the person on the other end of the phone is going to tell you why they called. And you can go from the uplifting, yes, I have your information, and yes, we do have the Johnson family, and they're going to have visitation at 3:00 this afternoon, services tomorrow too, whatever it may be that inquiry is. Or if it's a death call, you go a totally different direction. But if you will just simply answer the phone by saying, Smith Funeral Home, this is so-and-so, and shut the heck up, you will win. Because let them tell you where they need to go with you next. I'm in the hospital. I've just lost my dad. He had always said we were going to call you, and that's what I'm doing. The very first thing you should say, and this goes back to what our tagline was for this gig, is the very first thing you can say is anything other than, I'm so sorry for your loss. Because over the next 72 hours, between this encounter with you and the encounter with everyone else that finds out about this loss in their family and beyond, that's what everybody's going to say. Everybody they encounter is going to say, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's going to be on Facebook. If this is a Facebook post that I've lost my dad, they're going to say, hundreds of people are going to respond over and over with, I'm so sorry for your loss. My suggestion would be to say, I know this is a difficult call for you to make. If they walked in the front door of the funeral home and they are there to make arrangements, and someone is going to encounter them other than the person making the arrangements with them, I would even suggest for you to say that to them at that point. I know this is a difficult time for you and your family, but you've called the right place, and we're here to help you. And if I'm on the phone, by the way, without going any further into the details, but if I'm on the phone, the very next thing after that would be listening to what they say next and asking the name of the person you're talking to.
Absolutely. And when Doug brought this up, it hit so hard, because we have so many people that say, I don't want to extend condolences. I can't say I'm sorry. And we really do try to think what to say. And he hit it out of the park. Or as I said, he whatever I said in that video, right? He tossed a dead ringer, being humorous. But Doug, you make such a good point at it. We're going to have a little fun today too, right?
This idea of saying, I know this is a difficult time. It doesn't really matter if you're on the phone. It doesn't matter if you're in person. Yeah. Using those words instead of, I know I'm so sorry for your loss, or something equivalent. I've been accused, by the way, when I've said this publicly, of saying, well, should we not be showing our condolences? Well, certainly we should. But we've got to do it in a way that sets us aside, because not only do we need to express our condolences, we need to express the professionalism that they're going to experience with us, which will be different than anybody else that's going to say, I'm sorry for your loss. As a professional in this business, you got to be a pro. And to be a pro, what you say can make a difference.
And if you listen to Doug when he said it, listen to the tone and the rate in his voice. That's how we share it, right? That's where the empathy does come through. And the other thing Doug was big on for us was to listen. And that is another challenge. I think sometimes we get nervous. We need to fill the dead space, right? No pun intended. But if we would just sit back and just listen, right? And there's more, all of us have been through those classes before, but I still say sometimes if we would just make a statement and stop and be quiet, the family will probably tell us more than we ever expected to learn from them. So, Doug, I
No
was
question
on.
about it. And as Jay alluded to, once we get them in that
Yep.
arrangement office, once we're sitting across the table from them and we don't start taking vital statistics right away. Hopefully they've done that somewhere else ahead of time or whatever. But we start, if you're trying to break the ice, and this is something I haven't said when we were together, Brent, but you can use the words meaningful, appropriate, and affordable. In our time together, while we're together here, our responsibility, my responsibility working with you as some people who loved and cared about your dad, our responsibility is to create the most meaningful, appropriate, and affordable way for you and everybody who's going to attend to remember him in the way you want that to be done. The words meaningful says it's important. The word appropriate says it's the right thing for you to do for your family under these circumstances, and affordable is my commitment not to hose without ever saying it. Affordable for me could be $2,000. That's all our family's got. Affordable for me could be a $25,000 blowout at the country club. And so when you say the word affordable, it also helps to ease that anxiety. I'm not here to take advantage of you. And we're here to create the most meaningful, appropriate, affordable way to remember your dad.
I like it. That's good.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. When was I've had funeral directors I've got a whole list of questions that probably everybody that's on our call with us here today could give us a list of questions that you could ask a family. Well, one of them I always thought was cool was when was your mom most happy? When was your dad most happy? Well, when she was drinking. You don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
If you may think you know these people well. I mean, if you're in a small funeral home in a small community where you know everybody in the county, but you haven't been in their home, you don't necessarily know how they live. And so you have to be prepared to be all things to all people, regardless of how they answer your questions. But without the questions and you listening to what they say, you're going to have two songs and a sermon, and people are going to be looking at each other wondering why they came. But if you take that time to use that gift that Jay and I both have alluded to, use your gift, that gift of patience, that gift of creation, that is a gift that is given real funeral directors, and I believe in it strongly.
And I'm going to give we're giving a few tips, a way to help, right? I've always said I was a little on the spectrum because empathy doesn't ever register me instantly. It's shortly after. So I tend to say something I shouldn't, and then I capture it. It's just part of my life, but I've worked with it. Because how to do that, though, is I've learned that active listening really does help me with empathy. And I learned it years ago. It's LAER, L-E-A-R. You listen, right? Or L-A-E-R, listen and acknowledge. We just kind of shake our head. We give a little We're just acknowledging that we're hearing you. But then when they get done stating something, find a way to kind of restate what they said and ask a question. And it could be as simple as, Mary, I hear you saying you're interested in direct cremation. Could you tell me a little more about that? Right? I just repeated what she said. But what I did, though, is now gave empathy, slowed me down. But I came across caring, she's been listened to. And all it really did was restate what they said, not like a robot, but asked a question. And if we can just practice more in that and use open-ended, like Jay was saying, it rolls. And that's something I personally had to learn because it did slow me down to not respond, especially since I started in cemetery sales first, right? I think I was more focused on sales sometimes, and I had to pull myself back. And I learned to do that, and it changed everything.
I believe we are a people, a unique set of people who do this work that can't be ignored. But I also believe that sometimes because we do so much of it, that it becomes the previous methodology becomes rote. And we know that every family that walks in to take care of their person on that day is a unique circumstance. And so we have to be pros enough to be flexible enough mentally and in everything we offer to be able to pick and choose and create that one thing. So that's one thing I want to make sure that we don't get off this call without acknowledging that every one of you should have one thing that everyone that is committed to you now as a potential client for now or in the future, they already know about you. There's one element other than you're nice people and they took care of my grandparents. What is the one thing that you do that is so uniquely different that everybody seems to really, really like it, to the point that it has sort of become your signature? And maybe that's even a product. You mentioned a few minutes ago, Brent, Parting Stone. Parting Stone is an amazing product. I would, and we're not getting paid by Parting Stone to hawk their wares here, but I will tell you that for you to be a full professional in this business, there has to be something you're known for. Mm-hmm. If you're going to drag business away from someone else in your marketplace, through those funeral guests that observe what you're doing and observe what was used to do what you're doing, whether it's the way that things were done at the graveside. I know a guy who used to line the cemetery from the point somebody got out of the hearse with grass all the way to wherever the graveside was, not just the grass around the cemetery, all the way to the graveside, and would put flowers along that path that matched the flowers that were on the casket spray.
Oh.
Now, I'm not suggesting you do that. It's a lot of work, gobs up a lot of time. But the fact is, he was known for that.
But that was an experience
because he did it on his own. Say it again, Brent.
That was an experience, and that's the whole drive of where we are today. It's all about the customer experience. It really is. What do they see? What do they feel? You're right. And I'm not talking, we know it started with Starbucks back in the day and they've shifted from it, right? But what's the customer experience they get when they're with each of us individually or with our organization? Because the thing we know is 92% of them, if they don't have a good experience, they won't come back. They don't tell you about it. They just don't come back.
This is a what have you done for me lately mentality across the board. Walmart is experiencing that now with Amazon. Amazon is effectively from the inside out destroying Walmart's, and other obviously other big box retailers are having the same challenges. Home Depot is another one, but the fact is if we want to drag people to us that are not currently committed to us, then the way to do that is to simply pay attention to those funeral guests and give them something while they're with us that they weren't expecting. And that arranging family then is going to get something that they also may not have been expecting. This could be something that you uniquely did on your own, and you do it for every family, and it becomes a winner for you. And I don't know necessarily exactly what that might be. I can give you a couple. We've got just a minute or two. I'll give you a couple of quick examples, because we think that we know everything there is to know about this. And I will tell you that everyone on this call knows something that somebody else on this call doesn't know. We all have information about this business that's worth sharing. It's not just myself and Brent and others like us that care about trying to do this. But here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about, because we think we know it all. Have y'all ever seen this? How many of you have ever actually seen this? That is a piece of solid bronze. I can barely hold it up with one hand. I took it off the wall, not off the wall, off the shelf in my office, because that's my mom. My mom died in 2009, suddenly. And I won't go through that whole story. We don't have time, but I will tell you that on her birthday, she died in November of 2009. In November of 2009, she passed away. She was a lot of things to a lot of people. 800 people were at her funeral, 600 attended her visitation. And so on her birthday, which was May the 20th, 6 months after her death, every one of my family members, 4 step brothers and sisters, 2 brothers, and my stepdad received this in the mail from me by FedEx with a handwritten note that said, "Today's Peg's birthday, and I know we're all missing her." And I sent it, by the way, to all of her 6 brothers and remaining brothers and sisters, because she was the first one to go out of 7 children. I got a single space, 8-page handwritten letter from my 84-year-old aunt telling me what my mom and this had meant to her. And it's interesting because this is what the kind of product that's across the board. It could even be considered a mobile memorial, because a cremation family would be just as interested in this. We were a burial family. My mom's buried in Birmingham. But when my relatives got this from me, it was like I had sent them $1 million. It was absolutely amazing, the response I got to that. And that's probably it. That may even be, it's a 4x6 bronze memorial. That may be something, even the bronze companies don't talk about it, and they all have it. And it's just, what can you be known for? You know?
Good point. Very good point.
It's just there's just stuff out there that you can do, whether it's something you do on a service every time, and that means that everybody who does services there has to be able to duplicate it. It has to be duplicatable if it's something you do. Or maybe it's just something that they buy. Maybe it's something that they see, or something you buy and give it to them. And like you include live streaming in your service charge. You don't sell it. You just include it in every service charge.
Well, I even had
attending visitation is going skyrocketing because with the firms that do that.
Yep. Doug, I even had a friend that was known for a plastic tub, and you're sitting there and go, "Why a plastic tub?" But she had 4 or 5 tubs, and clear, and wrote on, when you'd open the top, it had this list taped on it of things to think about, and she'd hand it to every family and say, "I just like to do this. It's something I do." Not every director did it there. Here's a box. If you want to bring in some of, let's use Jake's favorite things, I'll put them all around for you. But it was just a box. But she was known because she had a plastic tub, just a clear plastic tub. Something that simple. So a lot of neat ideas out there.
The power that is available to us is in our hands. This is really up to us. How hard do we want to work? How much do we want to earn the business? How much do we really want to put into this to maintain and continue? Look, and we're almost to our end here, time, Brent. But the fact is 25 years from now, after some of us on this call are probably going to be dead and gone, somebody's going to be caring for our dead in North America. The only question is, who's going to be doing it, and what are they going to be doing? And there are young people on this call, or you have young people working on your staff who are the perfect people to carry this business forward for the next 6 generations.
Yeah.
And this ability to create uniqueness and value, and yes, I'm willing to spend money because that guy did this for me, or she never mentioned that she was going to do that and she did it anyway. Those kind of things will cause people to come to you and stay with you, and it will cause you to impact funeral guests when they're attending your function, if they can see it and they know about it. They have to know who you are and what you stand for in just the time it took them to attend whatever they were there attending.
Yep. That's amazing. That you're absolutely right. And I think there are a lot on this call that can do it. So we're going to give a couple minutes. If anyone has a question, feel free to ask.
Bill, thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Bill. Good to see you, sir. And thank you, Jay, for all your contributions. I hope everybody read. Jay had a great one up there for you to read that he tried to do with every family. And we'll these kinds of things we'll look at. Maybe we'll do something where we can type up some of the comments and some of the ideas when we have the videos out there as well. Not seen any questions yet, but that's because you guys know it'll take Doug and I 5 minutes to answer one question probably. But that's fair. So thank you for all of you joining us. We really do appreciate it. And then what I want to do, though, is kind of do that preemptive of what are we going to do next time. So you kind of heard me mention the one that we changed might not be a few months out now instead of right away. So what we want to let you know is that we are not going to have a webinar in September because we're going to have a special guest with us. Not that Doug wasn't our most special guest. He was our first special guest, but we're going to have another special guest with us on October the 9th. There we go. I got him. That made it worthwhile. So we're going to have a special guest with us on October the 9th, and we're going to be at 1 o'clock because we know we've been hitting our webinars here right after ICCFA. So we want to kind of move around a little bit. Stay tuned. We will let you know who the special guest is and what kind of entertainment we can have with that one. So, Doug, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. You bring so much to the profession, and it's an honor. And I say this because I remember when I first started getting out on the circuit being nervous. Oh boy, I got to go against Doug Gober. We're both talking together on the same stuff. And in the end, he taught me how to work together, share each other's data. And next thing you know, we're competitors and we're sharing each other's data, working together. He's just an honor to be with. I really genuinely appreciate it.
Brent, thank you very much, sir. And I'm now seeing Sherry Stahl, my dear friend, and others show up. And thank you all for being with us. And I'll echo what Nikki just said. This is certainly the best time to be in this business. We just gotta do the things that makes it best. It makes you the best that you can be. And I'm really thrilled to be involved with this. And thank you for the opportunity, Brent and Mandy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone, that concludes our webinar. We really appreciate it. Don't hesitate. Email us, call us, text us. We're always here for you. Doug is, myself, Mandy, Nikki. If you Jay's got some good answers over there too. So we'll find Jay.
Thank you guys for the opportunity of being with you all this afternoon. And thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you.